Hey, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. Today we're bringing you a tour of the Blue Forest at Buchholz Nursery.
Guys, there's some fun plants here. I'm Matt, that's my brother Tim. Let's jump right in. That's Pinus parviflora Tokyo Dwarf.
Y'all, this is a narrow, upright form. It's one of those Japanese white pines. I love that blue color they give, the unique texture out there in the landscape. Zone 5 through 9 plant, a great conifer to put out there and pair with your maples.
Tokyo Dwarf really brings it. I love those shades. And what a fun concept. I wanted to get this on camera for you guys. We were visiting in February, around February 20th when we shot this, and the conifers were just really showing out. It was such a special time in the garden. This area has, as you can imagine, in an area called the Blue Forest, a lot of blue conifers. Now, there's also some yellow showpieces that are mixed in, and it's just an amazing area in the conifer garden, and I get lost in there. It's so out of leaf that gets all the attention. And when the maples are out of leaf, this is the area that everybody wants to get to. They want to get inside the Blue Forest and check it out.
Check out this yellow pine over here on the left. It's a lodgepole pine called Pinus contorta Frisian Gold.
Now, this is the same species as Chief Joseph. So this is a Pacific Northwest native. Really cool plant. This one kind of gets some really interesting shades of lime green. So an off color from what you see with the Chief Joseph. Frisian Gold just absolutely brings it out. It really caught my eye. I mean, any of the yellows in the blue garden are popping off during this season too.
Selection by Yellow Nursery, and it really just gives you that really nice orange gold during the winter, more of a dull green during the summer, but during those winter months it really brightens up and can give you some amazing colors out there in the landscape. This tree got a little bit of shade here in the Blue Forest from this larger tree above it, and that allowed it to get some of those just chartreuse greens.
Now, we're not going to talk about every single tree you see in here. We'll go through a few of them. We're going to kind of give you an overlay of the garden, talk about some of our favorite highlights in here, and just kind of take you on a little bit of a tour. Now, this is a Buchholz introduction, Cyprus Moonshine.
Yeah, this is a dwarf Hoya Cyprus with that variegated splash of color in there. So you get some white variegation on a Hoya Cyprus. Small, compact shape, typically reaching 2 foot by 2 foot in 10 years.
Now this one's going to work zones 4 through 8. Just an absolute wonder of a tree. You'll see this one in our variegated conifers video too. We did a walkthrough where Tim and I go a little bit more in depth on some of our favorite variegated conifers at the Buchholz Gardens, and we definitely focus on moonshine a little bit. It's an absolute cool plant. That smaller shape lends itself well to small conifer gardens, but also trough gardens.
So this is Pisa Glaa Blue Wonder, and this thing has that nice conical shape and good blue color.
This one's going to work zones 2 through 8. Now, this is an Alberta spruce that, like Tim mentioned, is very conical in its habit, so you kind of got a perfect shape going on there. I find some spiders on this close-up here. There's a little bit of cobwebs going on in this one, but it's an absolute wonder in the garden. It's fun when you actually see some nature interacting with your plants as well, but the shape on this one is really nice.
Not to be confused with Piscia pungens Blue Wonder. This is the Pisa Glaa Blue Wonder. You know, pair this out there with your daisy white out there and give you some good offset colors, similar shapes. You kind of have that sort of green penguin Moseri kind of thing going on when you put out the daisy white and the Blue Wonder. Guys, next we've got a Sugga Martana. That's basically a mountain hemlock.
So this is a little bit of a preview. There's going to be some really cool cultivars of this in this video. This one's a straight species. This is another one that is a native in the Pacific Northwest, normally found very high up in mountain ranges. We're going to be doing some experimentation on the zones for this one. Talon has several very interesting selections of this in the Blue Forest. Maybe 6 or 7 selections of this that were just outstanding. Obviously, they remind us a lot of Cedar Deodoras. Like the colors, the textures kind of give you some cedar feels in the landscape. Something we'll be playing around with in the future for sure.
Yeah, those are actually native in basically like central to northern California all the way to Alaska. And so it's so cool just to see some of these native selections getting introduced in the nursery trade. One thing that we were told is they don't like a lot of humidity, but we're going to have to try them here in Western North Carolina and see how they perform for us because, you know, we don't have as much humidity as, say, someone, you know, much further south than us. The mountains of North Carolina, I'd say, is, you know, very comparable to some of the climates they have out there.
It's interesting. It's definitely a learning curve with our experiences here in Western North Carolina. We're Zone 6B. Buchholz Nursery is actually a Zone 8. So it's a little warmer, but it's interesting. Oregon and North Carolina are comparable in their yearly rainfall, but it's an interesting It's an interesting difference.
I mean, the mountain hemlocks, they're good down to zone 5. Some selections are good down to zone 4. So the cold tolerance really isn't the problem there. It's the humidity. And that's just where we're going to be trialing these trees out, seeing how they grow and seeing what we can grow here in Western North Carolina and offer them, all across the United States.
That is Sugga Martana Blue Dancer. Now, that is a bright blue one of the same cultivar, of the same species. This is a cultivar selection of that species. A little bit smaller grower, great blue colors.
Yeah, 6 foot by 3 foot in 10 years. One of those Buchholz and Buchholz introductions in the Floral Window Arboretum.
This little guy here is Pisa Glaa Burning Well.
Yeah, that thing stays really small. We're talking 1.5 foot by 1 foot in 10 years. I mean, that thing is crazy small. It's one that you don't see that often in the nursery trade, and it really has that really good blue color. I mean, for a Pisa Glaa, I mean, that's just insane. It really looks almost like a Piscia pungens in the way it's got that blue color, but you've got that on an Alberta spruce.
1.5 feet by about 1 foot in 10 years, making this one a really nice, compact, dense dwarf. This blue garden is just a fun area. I really wanted to find a way to, kind of take you on a cinematography tour of this place, and that it has like the sights and scenes of it, but also kind of get into a little bit of the cultivars that we have here at Buchholz. There's so many treasures within this one garden. You could really spend all day just kind of wandering around here and looking at taxa.
I mean, the plants, every time I walk through this garden, I see something I haven't seen before. There's so many rare plants that Talon has been, putting into the nursery trade. For instance, like this Cedrus Albanii Kinwithth. So many awesome plants, but then there's some plants that he's never even touched or really even put into the nursery trade.
My gosh, there's dream plants in this landscape that he's like, I just didn't name it. You're like, wow, that's incredible. He's like, I probably should have named that one. It is a great plant. I just never got around to it in 40 years. This is a 35-year-old one. We'll actually be doing a video, if it hadn't already aired, you guys have to check out, and it's upcoming conifers at Buchholz Nursery. And what we do is we talk about a few of the new conifers that we're naming, 2 of which are actually in this blue garden, a blue forest. So there'll be some cool plants there to come, some future introductions of conifers that I hope will expand a little bit of what we can do with conifers.
Guys, coming up here on the ground is actually one of my favorite conifers. This is Pia AB's Push.
This one's going to work zones 3 through 8. It's a witch's broom and a really nice dense habit to it.
Yeah, this was found as a witch's broom on the cultivar Acrocona. So you get that nice green color and purple cones. So these cones you see on here, when they first emerge out, really have a good purple color to them.
All right, we got another of those Sugga Martana. This one is Sherwood Compact.
This is one that's going to be 4 foot by 6 foot in 10 years. And this is one of those mountain hemlocks they say is good all the way down to zone 4. So it's one of the more cold tolerant of those mountain hemlocks. Remember, those ranges go from California to Alaska. So when you're looking in those colder zones up in Canada, that's likely where this Sherwood Compact genetics came from. It's more cold tolerant than many of the other mountain hemlocks.
I was so impressed with these. They really caught my eye. They were one of the reasons I had to really focus on video in this garden and kind of break it down a little bit. Just really blew me away. Some really interesting. Now we're going to go back to Cedrus Kinwithth. It's so nice. We got to talk about it twice.
Yeah, it was the 2012 American Conifer Society Conifer of the Year. It just stays dense and compact. It's one of the smallest cedars, reaching 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet in 10 years.
Yeah, this one's going to work zone 6 through zones 8. Just a show out plant. We offer this one a lot here on MrMaple. We used to bring a lot of them in from the Buchholz farm, so we'll keep doing that too. So if you guys are a fan of Kinwithth, that's one you can rely on seeing here come back a lot.
Found and introduced by Kinwithth Castle. I mean, you could imagine this little thing at a castle. I mean,
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome with its stoic kind of structure. It doesn't get very big, but it stays very compact and just has this regal appearance about it.
This little guy here is Pia AB's RELWB.
Yeah, I don't know if you're supposed to say it REL. I guess it is because they're all capitalized, but REL WB sounds pretty cool too.
This one's a real one.
It gets 1.5 foot tall by 1.5 foot wide in 10 years. So you can imagine how old this little small compact tree is here in the blue forest. it's a dwarf Norway spruce. But I mean, this thing just stays so dense and compact. It's one of the most miniature selections of those Piscia ABs.
So many crazy plants in this landscape. Again, this is in February, kind of in the middle of winter, and this is what you can expect with some of these conifers during the down season in gardening. I mean, how fun is it to walk through and do a garden tour in February? This was actually filmed February 20th. So here we've got Pisa Glaa Blue Planet. Now this is a nice compact form, typically 1 foot by 1 foot, even in 10 years.
Yeah, this is one of those plants that Talon's like, if we produce this, is it actually profitable? Because it grows so slowly.
It's tiny.
I mean, it grows a foot by foot in 10 years. I mean, so the marketability on having a 1 gallon, that's 5-6 years old is going to be really difficult.
We're walking by this one kind of quick, but here is a Pinus mugo Susie Hex.
Yeah, this thing is another small, compact, but it's a Pinus mugo, so it's a dwarf mountain pine, but it has more of that ball shape to it, reaching a foot by a foot in 10 years. Next, we've got AB's Concolor King's Gap. That was that blue that we just saw a second ago.
I believe that blue one there is a Hoya Cyprus called Lwood Nymph. And to my knowledge, it hasn't been produced at Buchholz. We'll have to look and see if he has a page for that. Not sure that's ever been produced.
It's interesting how you see that brighter blue color on that new growth that's coming out a little bit taller, and then you see that little bit greener color down below. So I'm wondering if that's a sort of sport on a conifer there.
I'll have to ask Talon some more about that one. That one is Pinus Monola Nana.
Oh man, that thing's got some great color to it. It's got some great blue color to it. That is really just a tree that stays typically pretty dense, reaching 2 foot by 2 foot in 10 years. Zone 5. And I mean, it looks almost like that kind of blue color on there. It's just outrageous. Next, we've got Pinus mugo Amhut.
We looked up how to say this one. That sounds like a sneeze. I'm not sure what we said. I'm not even going to try with that one. You guys can make fun of me later. 2 by 2 in 10 years, so you can imagine how big this specimen is. And it's going to work down to zone 2.
I like the lime green color. The lime green color gets a little bit of that yellow in there. Definitely something that's adding a lot to that landscape in the blue forest.
Next up, we got Pia AB Stoner.
That's another one that's 2 foot by 1 foot in 10 years. Zone 2, so I mean, it's pretty cold tolerant. You don't see, Pia AB Stoner around that much because it is a really slow grower. These specimens in Buchholz Nursery, you gotta remember Buchholz Nurseries is a nursery that's been in business for over 50 years, specializing in conifers and Japanese maples. So many of these conifers and maples in the landscape, they've got a lot of age to them. I mean, this Pia AB Stoner, awesome plant. Coming up next, Cedrus Deodora Silver Mist.
This one's going to work zone 6 through zone 11.
Yeah, this is a selection that was found by William Goddard of Canada, and many people say this one actually can handle down to zone 5 because of that. We list most of our cedruses down to zone 6, but this is one that says that it can handle a little more cold, but it does have that silver color to the needles.
Highly sought after, I'll be honest. I could do as many of this one as I can produce.
Yeah, the color on this is just outrageous. Gives a good sort of silver blue color on a Cedrus Deodora. Probably one of the more blue selections with that blue silver color of many of the Himalayan cedars. Huge
impact here in the garden. Huge impact. Really beautiful.
Guys, this is a Piscia Omarica Pendula Bruns.
Yeah, this one's listed as 7 feet by 3 feet in 10 years, so I don't even know how big this one is. Absolutely a beautiful conifer introduced by Bruns Nursery. And this one's going to work typically down to zone 3.
Guys, this is Piscia Pungens Blue Pearl.
Yeah, this one's another 3 through 8, which is Broom on Fat Albert.
Guys, the Hoya Cyprus nucatensis, the Alaskan Cedar. Some people call this Cupressus nucatensis. These trees are just awesome to have out in the landscape. I mean, just look how those the foliage just hangs down off of the branches. This just gives a unique specimen out there. It just adds a fun texture and adds that vertical interest.
Those are going to work zones 4 through 8. So many cool plants. That one down there in the very middle, we do a focus on that one on our plants we're naming. That one's a Cedrus Atlantica Blue Haze. That new introductions in conifers out by Buchholz. It's a 20-year-old witch's broom that Talon just never introduced. It's absolutely awesome. Now, this area is fun. It's got a waterfall. It's got a pond. It's got a little gazebo kind of patio area down there. Talon actually set his nuptials down there at the gazebo area. Really a nice, just well laid out, just perfect little garden. I absolutely love this area.
Yeah, this garden just has so many plants. I mean, we're focusing on the evergreens here, but as you can see, there are some deciduous plants in this landscape as well. There's some gorgeous weeping bald cypress. There's a lot of awesome trees all around this landscape. The backdrop you see back there, I believe that's actually a large-esque sunset. There's so many cool trees in this garden.
Stay away from the maples, Tim. This is a conifer video. I could spend all day walking around here. It's really a dream. All right, guys, so this is another Sugga Martana. This one is called Powder Blue, and it's a Buchholz and Buchholz nursery introduction.
Yeah, it'll reach 5 feet in height by 2.5 foot width in 10 years. You see it there on the now side, right in the center of the screen, right there. I mean, that thing is amazing. It's one of these mountain hemlocks that just gives you a smaller shape, but that good blue color.
Powder Blue is a perfect name for that one, too. 5 foot by 2.5 foot in 10 years. Such a special place, though. You could really spend all day talking about every one of these conifers. This area has this little waterfall that feeds into the lake down there. Just underrated. I mean, I can't help but talk about conifers, too. There's a beautiful fairy here tucked back up in there as well. Even though it's a conifer video, I'll mention a maple. All right, now this is one of my very favorites in the whole landscape. Pinus mugo, Mr. Wood, named for Etzel Woods, one of Talon's mentors.
Introduction here at Buchholz Nursery. It reaches a foot in height by 6 inches in width in 10 years. I mean, this is a classic tree, and he's got some really old specimens here in the landscape.
If you want to hear more about Mr. Wood, definitely recommend going to the Buchholz Nursery YouTube channel. Sean's been doing some great video breakdowns of Talon's blog. It's basically a free audio book. You got all the writing you enjoy from Talon Buchholz and some great production value put on here by MrMaple. Sean's doing an excellent job reading those and being the voice of Talon Buchholz.
Thanks so much for jumping in on this Blue Forest walkthrough. This is one of our favorite gardens at Buchholz Nursery with those evergreen interests.
So much slate, so much stone in here too. I mean, the stonework, oh my gosh, there's just so much around. Talon's really invested in the landscape, and it's something we hope to be able to continue and cherish for years to come.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.